What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Anthony Joshua, Vladimir Klitschko. Get this. One round changed everything for Anthony Joshua, and it wasn't against Andy Ruiz Jr. AJ has been a different fighter since his brutal Vladimir Klitschko showdown on a night we learned so much about him, but he must now bring back the killer within. Anthony Joshua, of course, has been a different fighter since Vladimir Klitschko. The heavyweight pair squared off in the Fight of the Year contender back in 2017. Joshua claimed a stoppage victory, but nearly gassed out in a thrilling fifth round. The Briton, which is now 32, has largely opted for a more cautious approach ever since. He must bring back the killer within if he is to beat Alexander Usyk on August 20th. On April 29th, 2017, the Briton put his reputation and his pair of heavyweight belts on the line as he took on the biggest challenge yet in Vladimir Klitschko in front of 90,000 hungry fans at a ruckus Wembley Stadium. Joshua got the victory and cemented his status not only as a legitimate heavyweight champion, but also a blockbuster pay-per-view fighter. Yet in doing so, his vulnerabilities were exposed, but the world, and more importantly, to himself. Then the 27-year-old, still relatively young in the professional career, Joshua learned so much about himself that night, as did the millions onlookers. The 6'6" giant exhibited heart, skill, power, and desire, but on an evening where he deservingly left the ring jacked up and the question surrounding his gas tank had largely been answered. Joshua was exposed as a human, as flawed, as beatable. History will never forget, or will forever remember the 11th round that Joshua caught his second win and detonated an almost jaw-dropping uppercut to Klitschko's chin before dropping the Ukrainian twice and ending the contest. The crowd erupted and the global superstar was born. Joshua survived a knockdown of his own in the 6th round, but it wasn't until the later rounds that he rediscovered, and in truth, a Klitschko of a few years back may well have got the job done himself. Klitschko has not returned to the ring since, while Joshua has arguably hasn't been the same fighter. Let me counterpunch. This is an interesting theory about Anthony Joshua. A lot of people did blame Andy Ruiz for giving Joshua that apprehensiveness to be a killer in the ring. And what do I feel about that? I think that AJ learned a lot about himself. I think a lot of people should have learned. I think when he gassed out, I think they should have made more preparations for AJ, got him smaller, got him leaner, you know, so they can improve that gas tank, work on that stamina. You know, strengthening, conditioning should be very much appreciated, especially when you're dealing with cardio, because when you don't have that, you don't have stamina. You don't have endurance. Those things are all connected, okay, like leaves or branches on a tree, okay? So if Joshua didn't have that, that's what he learned. But we do have some evidence from Anthony Joshua because he did admit who was the hardest puncher, and it wasn't Andy Ruiz nor Alexander Usyk. It was Vladimir Klitschko. So why wouldn't it be that particular guy that changed his whole mind on how he approached fights? I think with Andy Ruiz, I think Joshua was changed. It does make sense. When he got hit by Dr. Steelhammer, he knew, look, somebody's going to put me on my ass one day, you know, and I'm not going to have the gas tank to deal with it. And that's exactly what happened with Andy Ruiz. The problem with Ruiz, though, he was just so overlooked. He was short, fat, chubby, didn't look the part, but a good fighter nonetheless. And when Joshua tried to run right through him, he found out real quick in a bad way never to underestimate your opponent, regardless of how he looks. But where did it really start? I think the apprehensiveness started at Vladimir. We just didn't see him fight enough. We seen him fight Takam, which that's supposed to have been Pulev. And then the next year, we seen him fight Parker, which he boxed with Parker, as you guys can remember. He didn't go in there and try to knock out Parker. But then he went in there with Alexander Povetkin, which he took some shots from Povetkin and knew he had to get him out of there. But Povetkin's is more like a poor man's Tyson. So he didn't really have the elusiveness or the upper body movement like someone like Andy Ruiz. And then when he fought Andy Ruiz, he just took him for granted and got, boom, mollywopped, right? So that's exactly what happened. Shout out to my Uncle C. And I think that's probably a fair assessment. Vladimir Klitschko, Dr. Steelhammer, yeah, even though he retired that night, what also retired is that killer instinct of Anthony Joshua. It makes perfect sense. Why do you think Anthony Joshua now states, hey, that was the hardest puncher that I've ever been in there with? Because that's who changed his whole mind about how he should approach fighters. That's why he wanted more of a boxing approach versus go in there and slug them out, because he didn't like the outcome. I mean, he liked the outcome, but he didn't like the back and forth. He didn't like the violence and the brutality of it. Because Vladimir Klitschko was there to take his head off. And I don't care what anybody says. Vladimir Klitschko, that version of Klitschko that fought Joshua, would have gave Tyson Fury hell. Doesn't matter which Tyson Fury we were dealing with. Okay, so I think Vladimir Klitschko redirected his energy on Anthony Joshua and beat the shit out of him until Joshua saved himself by catching him with a right uppercut. But anyway, you guys tell me what you think of this theory that Vladimir Klitschko destroyed the killer instinct of Anthony Joshua. Please subscribe, and you guys been Counterpunch. Peace!